What happens when one of Hollywood's most loved actors steps onto a late-night stage and everything suddenly goes wrong? When the jokes dry up, the tension rises, the cameras keep rolling, and a simple talk turns into something no one expected. Tonight, we're unpacking the moment Hugh Jackman was asked to leave Stephen Colbert's show after a heated clash that shocked the studio crowd and sent the internet into a frenzy. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think really caused this situation to explode. Now let's get into it. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert usually runs like a perfectly tuned machine. Celebrities come out, promote their latest project, laugh at Stephen's jokes, tell a fun story, and everyone leaves smiling. That's the routine. That's how it's supposed to go. Except on this night, that routine completely fell apart. And the wild part is, it all began so calmly that nobody saw the storm coming. Hugh Jackman walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. The audience jumped to their feet. This is Hugh Jackman after all, Wolverine, the greatest showman, one of the most widely admired people in entertainment. Stephen welcomed him with his usual big grin, a friendly handshake, and they took their seats. Everything looked perfect. Stephen started with an easy question. Hugh, it's great to have you back. You've been everywhere lately. The new film is getting amazing buzz, and honestly, you look incredible. What's your secret? Hugh laughed, that warm Australian laugh that instantly relaxes a room. Well, Stephen, I wish I could say it's some magic trick, but really it's just discipline. You show up, you put in the work, and you stay consistent. Nothing fancy. Stephen nodded. Consistency, discipline, showing up. Sounds like solid advice for everyone, not just movie stars trying to stay in superhero shape. The crowd laughed. Hugh smiled. This was normal late-night talk, comfortable, familiar. Then Stephen shifted, just slightly, and you could feel the mood change. You know, Hugh, talking about showing up and putting in the work, I wanted to ask you something. You've been pretty quiet on social media lately compared to a lot of other stars. In a time when everyone is expected to comment on everything, you've stayed mostly out of it. Is that on purpose? Hugh's smile tightened just a bit. If you weren't paying attention, you might not have noticed. I think everyone has to decide for themselves how they use their platform. For me, Stephen, I prefer letting my work speak instead of my posts. Stephen leaned forward. Sure, but don't you think there's a responsibility that comes with the kind of influence you have? You've got millions of followers. People listen to you. When big things are happening in the world, don't you feel some obligation to speak up? The room grew quieter. Hugh shifted in his chair. I think the idea that celebrities should be moral experts on complex issues is part of the problem. I'm an actor. I'm good at playing other people. That doesn't make me an authority on politics, economics, or global conflicts. Stephen raised his eyebrows. But you're not just an actor, Hugh. You're a citizen, a human being with a conscience. Are you saying you don't have opinions? Hugh's jaw tightened. Of course I have opinions. I'm saying not every opinion needs to be broadcast to millions of people. Maybe we've created a culture where everyone thinks their quick take on everything is important, and maybe that's actually making things worse. You could feel the tension rising. Stephen leaned back, his tone no longer playful. So you think people should just stay quiet, keep their heads down? That's pretty easy to say when you're already successful. Hugh's eyes narrowed. That's not what I said, and you know it. I'm talking about the difference between real engagement and performative activism, between actually doing something and just posting about it. Stephen laughed, but it wasn't warm. So you're above all that, too refined for online activism. But come on, Hugh, you attend charity galas. You pose for photos with causes. Isn't that performative too? The audience went silent. Hugh leaned forward. Raising real money for real causes is not the same as posting a hashtag and calling yourself an activist. And I think you know that. Stephen's face flushed. So anyone who speaks online is just faking it? Is that what you're saying? Hugh shook his head. You're twisting this. I'm saying there's a difference between making noise and making change. I choose to support causes through action, not through public statements that make me feel good but don't actually help. Stephen spread his hands. But how do we know you're doing anything if you never talk about it? How do we know this isn't just a way to avoid taking a stance on anything uncomfortable? Hugh's voice hardened. So now if you don't perform your activism publicly, it doesn't count. That's the world now. If it's not posted, it's meaningless. Stephen leaned back. Silence can be complicity, Hugh. When people are suffering, staying quiet is a choice, and that choice says something. Hugh gripped the chair arms. And speaking without thinking also says something, Stephen. Jumping on every trend, having an opinion on everything whether you understand it or not. Maybe that says you care more about being seen caring than actually caring. The audience gasped. Stephen's face turned red. Are you calling me insincere on my own show? Hugh didn't back down. I'm saying maybe we all need to be more humble. Maybe we should admit we don't know everything and that not every issue needs an instant take. Stephen stood up. The crowd murmured. This was not normal. Hugh stood too. I came here to talk about my film, not to be accused of being part of the problem because I don't tweet enough. Stephen's voice rose. I'm a host. I ask questions. That's my job. If you can't handle anything deeper than fitness talk, maybe interviews aren't for you. He raised his voice. And if you can't talk without trying to corner people into viral moments, maybe you shouldn't have that platform. Stephen pointed to the exit. I think we're done. Hugh gave a bitter laugh. Yeah, I think so too. Stephen turned to the audience to go to break, but Hugh was already walking off. The cameras stayed on. That's live TV. Even when everything falls apart, it keeps recording. Hugh had taken only a few steps when Stephen called out, Hugh, wait. Hugh stopped but didn't turn. The studio froze. Stephen walked toward him while producers panicked in the background. You don't get to walk out like that, Stephen said. You don't come on my show, insult me, and just leave. Hugh turned slowly. I didn't insult you. I disagreed. There's a difference. Or is disagreement no longer allowed? Stephen stepped closer. You called me performative. You said I care more about appearances than action. That's personal. Hugh opened his hands. You said my silence makes me complicit. You questioned my character. How is that not personal? The room was dead quiet. Phones were up. This would be replayed everywhere. Stephen lowered his voice. I ask tough questions. If they bother you, maybe ask why. Hugh laughed sharply. This isn't journalism. It's ambush entertainment. You invite people in friendly, then spring-loaded questions meant to trap them. Stephen's face darkened. You knew what this show was. We talk about careers and current issues. Hugh shook his head. You asked why I don't post enough. You tried to label me uncaring. That's not discussion. That's framing. Stephen stepped closer. You make narratives for a living. You perform for a career. But when asked to stand publicly for something, you hide behind philosophy. Hugh's voice rose. I'm trying to be honest. Maybe we lost something when everyone became a pundit. When silence equals guilt and nuance equals weakness. Stephen pointed. That cynicism is the problem. You've convinced yourself doing nothing is wisdom. It's not. It's fear. The audience gasped. Hugh's face went pale. You're calling me a coward on national TV? Stephen didn't move. Hiding behind ideas while enjoying privilege is cowardly. Hugh stepped forward. You don't know what I do. You don't know where I give or how I help. And yet you judge me. That's why people stay quiet. Stephen's voice shook. Big problems need public pressure. Visibility matters. Speaking up inspires others. Hugh laughed bitterly. So helping isn't enough unless people see it? It's about credit? Stephen threw his hands up. Being seen matters. It creates culture. Hugh's voice dropped. And your noise might do nothing. You joke every night and think you're changing the world. What's actually changed? People started leaving. Stephen's face hardened. Get out. Hugh blinked. You're kicking me off? Stephen turned to the audience. Yes, I don't owe a platform to someone who mocks people trying to help. Hugh's anger faded into sadness. This proves my point. Disagree and you get silenced. Stephen pointed out. Now, Hugh nodded. I'm going. But understand this. This is what happens when you question the approved way of caring. Stephen shouted. You're not a martyr. You're privileged and avoiding discomfort. Hugh stayed still. Then quietly said, the saddest part is we probably want the same things. We just can't talk about how to get there. Stephen shook his head. You dismissed activism. That's contempt. Hugh replied. I have contempt for turning caring into a show. Stephen said people are tired of silence. Hugh said noise without substance is empty. Stephen edited. I want you gone. Hugh walked to the exit, turned back once, and said, I hope you're right. I hope all the posting helps. But if it doesn't, then we've wasted a lot of energy feeling good while nothing changed.